now. Okay, so Eric, you being in the industry for like over 20 years, like probably what, 25 years. Um,
Something like that.
what's the biggest thing that you look for, like when you're trying to work with an agency? I'm sure you've been with a few different IMOs. I know I have in a 6 year period. So, what do you look for? What do you see to be the most successful model, like when it comes to this?
I mean, honestly, I would tell you that, and I would tell anybody on this call that it really comes down to, your activity level. I mean, it is important. I mean, you need to have leads. Without leads, who you're talking to, what can you do? But above and beyond that, it's all about activity level and having the consistency, staying in front of your computer. And, I do get a hit up all the time. Oh, it looks like you got this cool equipment. Yeah, I really do take my job very seriously. I don't work from a laptop. I have a Mac Mini. I have two 24-inch monitors that sit in front of me. I have a DSLR camera. A lot of times I'm doing work as well on Zoom like we are now. So having some resemblance of the fact that I care becomes important. But above and beyond that, I prefer to work leads that are inbound leads. As a seasoned agent, my time doing an outbound dial isn't as valuable to me as if I can take an inbound call. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to activity. If you don't have inbound leads coming in, pick up the phone and dial. And, I know a lot of times, and, you said it, I've been to a lot of different IMOs. I owned a pretty big insurance agency for 15 years. But, and I've helped a lot of agents out and trained a lot of agents on overcoming objections and all that. To me, the reality is, hey, do they have a desire to buy some life insurance? Do they have somebody that they want to help protect? How do you build that desire up enough to you get to the point where when you're asking them, are you ready to spend 50, 75, 100, 120 bucks a month? Yeah, that, are we ready? Have we created enough of a value or benefit that they're going to be able to say, yeah, you know what, this makes sense. And let's be honest, a lot of the people that we sell to, that's $75 a month, maybe the last $75 a month in their budget that they have to be able to spend. So yeah, sometimes it takes a little bit more. And for those that have come from other areas of insurance, I sold ACA for a while. You'll CMS completely screwed up that.
Yeah.
And for those that have sold it, you know what I'm talking about. But there's nothing quite like life insurance. There's a lot of value that's there. The other thing too that I would say is for final expense for myself, really gives you the practice to be able to work in some other areas as well. So if you did want to get into something like Medicare and now you have a client base that you can literally go after and build up a small book of business in Medicare. If you have enough clientele, and hey, just so happens, I'm pretty sure if you got some final expense life insurance, you probably have some people that are turning 65 or have already turned 65, or if you have health insurance options, or if you, refer other agents, many different things. Getting to know, we always talk about final expense, but it's not much a whole lot different than mortgage protection insurance. Get to know a couple mortgage brokers. Now, the mortgage brokers, a lot of them are sitting dead in their tracks right now. But as interest rates come down and they start to get more and more people, guess what? They got people that need mortgage insurance. You're a good referral source. So like right now, you may be saying to yourself, hey, I got a little bit of time. That might be a good opportunity to sit down and say, where can I get some referral partners from? But for me, the biggest, and your initial question was, how do you find your level of success? Stop complaining. Pick up the phone, call your leads. I mean, we've all heard that a million times, and if they don't answer, call them back again. You pay a lot of money for those leads, right? And as TCPA compliance has evolved and leads have gotten more and more expensive, it gives us more reason to call those leads. And I will tell you guys, for me, a lead is a lead until they either die or they buy. I don't care. You better tell me, hey, take me off of your calling list. I never want to hear from you again. You beep, 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 beep. Now you're coming off my list. But until then, hey, I don't know what happened. Maybe I just called you at the wrong moment in time. Maybe now is not a good time for you to talk about life insurance. But next week when I get a hold of you, maybe it is. I can't tell you how many times I've sold somebody. A week and a half, 2 weeks ago, a loved one passed away and they were at a funeral and they saw that they didn't have any insurance. They were passing around a bucket trying to get to pay for the damn funeral. And I laugh about it, but that's a reality. I can't tell you how many times that's happened. And the other thing too is, I've been doing this for a little while. I can tell you many stories where somebody's got on the phone and they've used some language that some people wouldn't appreciate. And I just ask them, hey, what has you all your panties all in a bunch? How can I help you out? And I have sold some of those people once or twice where people have hung up on me and I've literally called them back and said, hey, sounds like you're having a pretty rough day. I'm pretty sure you didn't mean to say that about myself. You don't even know me at all, but I just was calling you back to double check and make sure you're okay. And some of those people I've even sold. That's why I say, a lead, it's a name with a phone number. And yeah, sometimes they get on the phone and they're saying, oh yeah, I'd like to buy some life insurance. When you get that one, throw some questions in the air. Good luck. They might buy, but they might not buy too. And a lot of more times we get that person that gets on the phone that says, I don't even know why I'm on the phone with you right now. We've all had those people. And I guarantee if you've been doing this long enough, you sold some of those people too. Why? Because they also need life insurance. And this is something that, hey, you're going to die. There's going to be an expense. You care enough about your family to cover them. If we can create enough of desire, they might actually buy it. But that's, for me, that's the biggest thing. Activity. Don't worry about, and guys, trust me, I'm going to tell you a real quick story if it's okay. Am I not going too far off track here?
No, this is perfect. I appreciate it very, very much.
So I worked for another IMO when I first got started out. And I started doing fairly well. And they had a thing that they did called March Madness. And they took all their top, say it was like 40, 60 different reps. And it was, they put it together just like March Madness for the basketball tournament. You would compete. So, I got selected for this. So I did pretty well. I got started off, I did pretty well. And, that's all the more I need to tell you about that. But that is a fun game. If you haven't ever tried that before, it really gets people jacked up around March. But, yeah, so I get to this point and I'm doing pretty well. And then I go against one of their top agents for years. And this person is well known. You see her on Facebook and YouTube and all this other good stuff. And so I didn't make it past that week. But the following week, man, I didn't sell a damn thing. I didn't sell one single policy. So I get on the phone and there's a helper and she's younger than I was. And I'm like, man, I think I lost my mojo. I don't think I can sell life insurance anymore. I think I just completely lost it. And she's looked at me and she said, Eric, last week you had written 2 a day. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have bad weeks. Go back and listen to a couple of your calls and see what you're doing different. And I'll tell you, that's another big thing too, is when you find yourself in a situation where you're having a down, couple of days, or quite honestly, if you've taken, I don't know, you guys tell me, but I would say if you've taken 8 calls and you haven't written a policy or you feel like you're not getting anywhere, that's a good time to either get up, walk away from your desk, clear your mind, and or jump on one of your own calls, record some of your calls, listen to yourself. Yeah, we can listen. There's a lot of good people that are out there that you can listen to, and they'll show you how to overcome objections, and you'll hear a lot of great, amazing things. But sometimes just listen to yourself. Hear when you say, oh yeah, Oh, yeah, it's amazing how when you listen to that and you realize like, okay, maybe that didn't sound quite like I thought it did. Or, hearing some of your own stories, have some stories ready to go. Talk about what it's like. I have a couple stories. I had a sister that passed away. I had two stepbrothers that have passed away. I've had a son that's passed away. So I got a ton of different stories. If you can share about, what your life experience has been like. Hey, the reality is some of the people, even though they may be over the age of 65, yeah, they probably have seen people pass away, but they may have never been financially responsible to have to take care of, a brother, a sister, a son, a daughter, a mother of, whoever it may be that passed away. Maybe they saw an aunt and uncle pass away. Okay, well, they might not have been financially responsible for that. Sharing with them a little bit more and asking them, they aunt passed away. Hey, how did Uncle Freddie deal with that? He wasn't, he didn't talk to him for like 3 months after the funeral. Was he okay? What was going on? Oh, you heard he was having some financial problems. Do you think that might have been because of the funeral? Talk to them about what that might have looked like. Talk to them about your situation and share and find out what happened in their situation. But a lot of times I'll come in and is it okay if I share with you a little bit about what happened when my son passed away here about 2 years ago? We were not prepared at all. We had no idea it was coming. He was only 22 years old. He had special needs. We had an idea that it was going to happen earlier than most people, but we had no idea. We didn't have any life insurance set up. And talking about, what did it feel like? Who gives a shit how you came up with $10,000, $12,000, $15,000, $20,000? Money's just money. Talk about how it made you feel. Talk about how the pain hurt. What you had to do. What were some of the pain that you had to go through, and at the same time had to get that money. And make it real for them. What would that be like for you? Now some of the people that we talk to may be older and we may be talking about different age ranges of people, but I see Quinn just put his camera on, like I'm talking to Quinn right now. Quinn, hey man, what was that like when so-and-so passed away? How did that make you feel? Can you imagine what that made their spouse feel like? Yeah, they dropped off the face of the earth for like 6 months. Wow. Must have been painful for them. Did they have any kind of anything set up, the life insurance policy? Did they have to set up a GoFundMe page? What was it like for them? And, these are just some of the things that you can utilize to help them feel. People don't buy life insurance because it's super affordable and they're going to get this big ticket whenever they pass away. When they die, they don't get shit. Their family gets everything. So this is a very emotional purchase. There's been times on calls where I'll cry alongside a potential client or lead. Sometimes they buy, sometimes they don't. And the other thing is, I never prejudge. When I get to an end of a call, and guys, I'm sorry if your script's any different than what mine is, but I always make the max offer. So, and I know you guys use AMAM. Hey, man, if I can offer you, $50,000 in coverage, hey, oh, man, Quinn, this is amazing. You got approved for $50,000. Now, the cost for that monthly is $125 a month. That sounds amazing, doesn't it? And you'd be amazed. You don't present that maximum offer, if you don't say that $125 a month, even though you think, oh man, these guys probably can't even afford $35 a month. If we've created enough desire, they may say yes. About 10% of the time, and I've been doing this a long time, I've researched my numbers. I've seen a lot of other people too. I've worked for an IMO as a manager as well. And I can tell you, on average, 10% of the time, they're going to say, yeah, you know what? That sounds good. But other times they're going to say, holy shit, no way, man. I can't afford $125 a month. And Griffin, what are you going to say after that?
No problem at all. We'll find something that's going to work better for you that fits more within what you can handle.
Right.
We give them a second or third option.
Exactly.
It's going to be a lot easier to sell that option.
Exactly. They get that sticker shock out of the way. Oh man, 125. Well, 75 sounds a whole lot better from 125. But if you started at 75, and I guarantee we've all done this, we start to say, oh, you get the same reaction. Oh man, the $75 a month. Oh man, I could buy two cases of cigarettes for that much.
Yeah. Exactly.
And hey, but if you don't start at that higher number, you're never going to find out. And you know what? Yeah, for those of you that are sitting back without your cameras on right now, I guarantee you there's some of you that are saying, yeah, but some people will hang up on me. Griffin, has anybody ever hung up on you before?
Oh man, I can't even imagine how many times.
Tyler's like, yeah, hell yeah. Sometimes I'm proud of it. I'll even say, oh yeah, I made them hang up. Guys, why are you hanging up? I'll tell you one thing that I've been told from the very beginning. Never hang up first. Never hang up first. Why? You got somebody that's live and willing to stay on the phone with you, there's an opportunity to be able to sell. Now, they don't have any money and they're just talking and they want to talk to you. And trust me, I've gone on a few phone calls and I joke around about, but I'm not proud of that. I literally have an entire cookbook from those old Bettys that send me recipes. And early on in my career, I was pretty good at where I would build up rapport and keep on going with the rapport building. Yes, rapport is important. I agree with that 1000%. But also controlling the call is also important. So once you get into rapport, don't be afraid to, hey, you know what, quit. We're here on the call today to talk about getting some insurance in place. Who's important enough to you that you'd want to have, a financial windfall for them whenever you pass away? What would that do for them? What would that mean for you? Again, make it about emotion. Make it about, how does this going to feel? Because I can tell you right now, at the end of the call, if it's all about, oh man, I'm a nickel cheaper than Mutual of Omaha. Okay, well, I can tell you right now, with AmAm, many, many, many times, I get that old lady on the phone that talks, all she wants to talk about is grandkids. Well, guess where I'm going to next? You can cover your grandkids for only $1 a month. Isn't that amazing? How many grandkids? You got 6 grandkids? Can you imagine for only $6 a month? You can provide coverage for them. And when they turn, I forget what the age is, 26 or something like that, that can be a guaranteed policy. How amazing that would be. And then what that turns into now for them is this isn't just about life insurance. This is now a gift to the grandkids. I don't know about any of you, but I know my grandparents, he never once said to me, hey, can I get that gift back? They're never going to do that. Where I'm going with this is if you're having a problem or you're having some issues with things like persistency, that's a great way to help with persistency. Looking at other avenues, add-ons to your policies. Most carriers offer some additional things, benefits that unless you bring it up, they're not going to know about. And you guys are professionals. As a professional, we need to know about, hey, again, I don't know you guys very well, but I've been with some companies that they try to offer every carrier under the sun. And that's great. If you know all those carriers and you know how they sell their policies and everything that they offer, great. But my suggestion is start with one carrier. And I'll be the first one to acknowledge, yeah, American Amicable is a very good carrier. It's not going to be the least expensive. You're going to find other carriers out there that may, for the same dollar amount, be 10 cents cheaper. But if you're selling on price, they're just a commodity. They're just like everybody else. As soon as I hang up with them, Courtney's going to be on the phone with them. And if it's not Courtney, it's going to be Christopher. And if it's not Christopher, it's going to be Quinn. And you know what's going to happen? Because I'm just a commodity, Quinn's going to say, oh, yeah, this guy has American Amicable. Oh, I got this other carrier that could be 3 cents cheaper. And they sell based on price. They sell commodity. But when we sell and we say, hey, look, this is something that's going to be there for the rest of your life. Do you see how important this is to make sure that you're making that payment every month? Don't be afraid to let them know that, hey, look, this isn't just a $35, $50, $75 a month payment this month. Don't be afraid to let them know, hey, look, I want you to know that we're going to get this set up with American Amicable. And also knowing by your carriers, knowing that American Amicable, quite honestly, is one of the best payment plans that you can offer. And that is if you set that payment up to land on the date when they receive their Social Security check, it's going to come out exactly when that Social Security check comes out. Not every carrier works that way. And what I mean by that is, let's say it lands on the 3rd of the month and the 3rd of the month lands on a Saturday. They're going to get paid on Friday at midnight, in about 30 seconds. The way American Amicable works is that payment's coming out at midnight, 30 seconds, and like a millisecond. It comes out. So again, if you're having problems with, say, persistency, maybe you need to look at the carriers that you're offering. The other thing too is if you're a newer agent, I know a lot of you guys on here are more seasoned, but I see a lot of times where new agents come in and they try to sell every carrier under the sun, and they don't really know what you're selling. And it's okay. You're brand new. You don't know exactly what you're selling, but what they do is they'll sell one policy with Liberty Mutual, one policy with Mutual of Omaha, one policy with American Amicable, one policy with somebody else, and then they get 3 chargebacks. And those 3 chargebacks are with a carrier where you got one policy with. So eventually they're going to start coming and saying, hey, when am I going to get my money back from you, Mr. Agent or Mrs. Agent? And that does happen. So in the beginning, I'm a firm believer in finding 1 or 2 good carriers that you can work with. Maybe you have a simplified issue, issue policy. Maybe you have a guaranteed issue. Maybe you don't. Quite honestly, I don't know how much value there is in the beginning and offer a guaranteed issue. Persistency rates aren't as good. The amount of commission that you're making is not as good, and they fall off. But finding that a good carrier that you can really understand inside and out. And, I don't know what all carriers that you're pushing here, but, I know that American Amicable is a very good carrier. I can tell you some other IMOs that depend 100% on American Amicable to be able to sell over the phone. They're very easy to sell over the phone. Their processes and systems are very easy to utilize. As more of a seasoned agent, keeping track of your business, their back end support is very, very good. Pricing wise, yeah, there's some carriers out there that are going to be a little bit less expensive. But again, if you're focused on selling, a savings of 30 cents a month, more power to you. I'll sell you every single day of the week, and I'll sell them on a policy that's $50 more a month. I don't give a shit. So I hope I didn't go on too long for you, but
that was very helpful.
Yeah, I mean, that's just some of the things that I've seen that, I don't care where you're at, what you're doing, what part of your career you're in, The one other major factor, and I'm going to go back, this kind of goes back and ties into the very first thing with activity levels, guys, set a schedule for yourself. If you are working for a slave owner, that slave owner, or I call them a W-2 boss, they're going to tell you, you got to be there at 8:00 in the morning, and you work till 5:00, and your ass is going to sit in that chair till 5:00. And yeah, at 5:01, you're going to get up from that chair and walk away. Do the same thing here. Be the toughest boss that you've ever had for like a year. And then it becomes second nature. And the other thing is, and I'm pretty sure, because I've worked at a lot of different places, at the end of every single call, a very simple question. Who else do you know that would appreciate having some great health insurance like we were able to help you out with here today? Then shut up. Don't say anything. Let them tell you. And I guarantee you, I know, and you guys can look this person up. Her name's Patrice Shepard. I work with her at a couple different places. But I can tell you about 40% of all of her business, and she buys leads. She pays a lot of money for her leads. She's an independent agent. But 40% of her business comes because all she does at the end of a call is what I just told you. Quinn, it's been a real pleasure and a real honor helping you out here today. I can see that this is going to help your family out a ton. Is there anybody else that you know of, maybe at your church? Anybody on the baseball team or your softball team that doesn't have some life insurance that I could maybe or should be talking to? or maybe you could even talk to them and share my information. It's amazing, how many times, and let me just say this, at the beginning, you're going to be terrible at it. People are going to tell you, I'll get back to you. You know what? Yeah, you can call this person or that person, and they won't pick up. But as you practice, as you get better at it, just like with anything else, you'll start to get people that'll say, yeah, you know what? This person, we were just talking about this the other day. Can I get them on the phone right now? And when you get really excited is when they say something to you like, oh, yeah, I'm part of a church group. Let me present this at the church meeting this weekend. Might have a few people interested in talking with you, and think about this too, for us, we sell over the phone. Don't forget, if you guys are part of a children's, soccer team, if you're a coach, if you're in the church, if you're out and about, don't be afraid to let people know, hey, I sell life insurance. Has anybody ever talked to you about getting life insurance? I see you got some young kids. You probably own a house. Might be a good idea to get some life insurance. And you get paid just the same, whether you do it over the phone or you say, hey, come into my office here. I got to get on my computer and type this out. I've never done it before in person. That's okay. They're still getting good life insurance. And as long as they see that you care, guys, and I wear a hoodie sweatshirt every single day. I've been doing it for years. Previously, I used to have to wear a tie and a suit every single day. And, that worked out pretty good. I did very well when I had my agency. Today, I live in Bogota, Colombia. Next week, I'm getting ready to move to Medellin. And for any of you guys that know or been around long enough, there's a lot of people in Medellin that I can't wait to get there and talk to about more sales stuff. And there's a lot of good stuff that's happening there. And I've lived in Santa Marta here in Colombia. I've lived in Barranquilla. I've lived in Arizona. I've lived in Sedona, Arizona. I spent 7 years in Sedona. This job has allowed me. I hiked every single trail in Sedona. They knew me as the mayor of Sedona at one point. I wasn't elected, but just had a lot of friends and doing the same things that I'm telling you right now. Yeah, I sell some life insurance. If you're interested, I can talk to you about it. Otherwise, let's go down to the creek and hang out. Little things like that, it's amazing. But it's also amazing how few people do that. Letting people know. Don't be afraid. If you work for the car dealership and you were selling cars, you better believe your boss is going to give you a car that says, hey, I work for this car dealership. Don't be afraid. Just because you're an independent contractor, don't be afraid. Go buy yourself a shirt that says, hey, I'm the best life insurance agent ever. That's one thing. Another thing I do at the end of my calls, hey, I know for certain they're going to remember my name, Eric Shirk. Okay, well, yeah, I like to think I'm pretty important. Well, what I tell them is at the end of my call, hey, I want you to get your phone out right now and you have my number in your caller ID. I want you to save it in there and I want you to save my name as the insurance guy or the insurance gal or the insurance girl or the insurance dude or whatever you want to call yourself. Because when something happens, I want you to remember who I am. And even though Eric Shirk is a super memorable name, yeah, right, you'll always remember the insurance guy. And also what that does, guys, is I'll tell them, hey, you know what? I don't have business cards. Business cards were like a 1980s thing. Just put my name and phone number or put the insurance guy and my phone number on a small piece of paper and take one of those stupid refrigerator magnets that you have for the restaurant that you never order from. And just take that piece of paper and put it on the refrigerator and hold it up with one of those magnets. You will be amazed at how many times I've gotten a phone call saying, hey, yeah, my aunt has had your name on her refrigerator for like 10 years. You're an insurance guy, right? Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it'll be about insurance that I don't sell. Well, I still can help them out because I know a lot of insurance agents across the country. And if I don't, I can find one. And maybe, just maybe, if the stars are in alignment, I can even collect some commission off of that deal that I refer. But these are all things that, as a professional, think as a professional. Think about, hey, how can I manage to get a couple extra leads? Think about this. If just in those couple ideas, you got 2 or 3 more deals in your pipeline and close 3 more deals in a month, how much more is that going to mean to your bottom line?
That'd be a lot. Yeah, for each person. I mean, that's going to add up for sure.
And imagine this. Imagine just by saying at the end of your call, hey, who else do you know that would really appreciate having a benefit for their loved ones like we were able to help you out with here today? And if you could increase your business by 40%, even let's cut that back. Let's just say you're not very good. Let's say it's 20%. I told you that, hey, instead of making 10 grand this month, we're going to put another 20% in your pocket, another 2 grand. I don't care how much money you make. Ain't nobody saying no to that. And that's just by asking a simple question and doing it repeatedly. And if anybody else in here uses a script, I'm pretty sure you say some of the same things over and over again. Don't be afraid, especially after you make a sale. And I've been guilty of this many a times. And we've all done this, and we can all shake our head yes. But we get to the end of a call, we've made a sale, and now we want to hustle off the call so that we can celebrate. Oh, yeah, man, that thing was 1,000 AP. Woohoo, I'm going to make a bunch of money off of this deal. Rather than taking just a few extra moments at the end of a call, when you already have somebody that trusts you, has bought from you, and now you can say to them and have an opportunity to ask them for another lead, another resource, another available option. And if you talk to somebody that tells you, hey, I was a minister at a church, man, let me tell you what, they know a shit ton of people. They know everybody in their community. They're buying life insurance. They probably are talking about that life insurance to somebody else. Hey, do you mind when you're talking about this great policy that we got set up for you? Do you mind sharing my name? Maybe even my contact information? Can I help out anybody else that you know? Anybody else in the church? Oh, you own a business. What kind of business do you have? Okay, great. You're in real estate. You know anybody else that could use some life insurance that's a real estate agent? Anybody else here been a real estate agent? Anybody else been a real estate agent and been offered any kind of insurance, let alone life insurance, health insurance? They all need it. So don't be afraid. If you're buying a house, don't be afraid. Hey, can I talk to your broker? Don't talk to the guy that you bought the house from. Can I talk to the big man? Okay, great. Hey, guys, I'm going to give you a little secret. Every Tuesday in most real estate offices, they have a meeting where they require that all their agents come into the office. That's an ideal time to be able to just step in and say, hey, you know what? I want to talk to you about life insurance. It's going to be important, not just for your clients as they're buying a house and they have a big mortgage. I may be able to help them out. But how many of you have families? How many of you have, when I walked in here in the parking lot, I saw like 15 different Mercedes. I saw a couple of BMWs. How many of you have life insurance that if God forbid you lost your income, would your spouse be able to afford your monthly bills? Would it be worthwhile for me to do a small presentation for a group of you to show you how life insurance could benefit you? And whether that's final expense, whether you venture into some areas down the road into things like IULs, or even getting into health insurance, quite honestly, with a realtor base, they don't get offered anything. They're 1099 like you and me. What do? Most of them, they don't do nothing because there's nobody knocking on their door. Believe it or not, there's nobody saying to them, hey, you know what? You need some insurance. Let's get you some insurance. Don't be afraid to be the first one. It'll work for some. Some you won't sell. That's okay. I'm pretty sure we don't sell every single lead that comes to our phones, right? So we're not going to sell everyone that's face to face either. But these are just some of the things that, remind yourself. Who am I talking to that doesn't know that I'm a life insurance agent? Who do I know that I've talked to that knows I'm a life insurance agent that hasn't asked me about life insurance? As I'm on the phone with somebody and they're telling me, hey, you know what? I don't care. I'm not interested. And you've determined that, and you're at the point where you're ready to say, you know what? I just can't do anything with this lead. Hey, Quentin, I understand that you don't want life insurance. Give people around you. You probably don't have many people. It's just probably isn't going to provide a lot of value for anybody that around you when you pass away. And let's be honest, once you're dead anyway. You know anybody else that has some important people around them that they'd want to take care of? Again, just because you didn't sell a lead doesn't mean that they don't know other people. And sometimes, and I can't tell you, it's not a lot, but every once in a while when I've done that, I'll say to them, it's called a takeaway. When I say, hey, Shaler, yeah, it sounds like, you know what, you don't need life insurance. Nobody likes you anyway. And quite honestly, when you're dead, let's stick it to them. What do you say? Well, hey, Shaler, I bet you probably do know some of those other people that do have other people that like them. Do you know anybody that I could contact to help them out with some life insurance? I know you're not going to be one of them, but you'd be amazed how many times you get that Shaler that comes back to you and says, hey, you know what? Don't count me out. Why can't I get some life insurance? So sometimes a little takeaway like that. But also, that also does, let's say sometimes and more times than not, they'll just say, oh, yeah, I don't need any life insurance. But you know what? My mom's getting old. She's like 85. I saw some dirt the other day that was younger than she was. She might pass away at some point. She doesn't have any life insurance, and I'm going to be the one that's going to have to pay that bill. You think we can get life insurance on mom? Probably. Maybe. Let me find out a little bit more about mom. She's pretty old. 85 might be too old. But, it get them to open up. Who else do you know? There's a million different things that we can ask. And as a salesperson, we want to be constantly asking questions. What could I do to help you out today? Well, if you're not interested in life insurance, how can I help you out? Because I provide a lot of great benefits for people that aren't dead. Did you ever know that life insurance isn't really for dead people? It's for people that are living, and talk about it maybe in a little bit different way than what they're used to. Quinn, I get it, man. I wouldn't want life insurance either. That means we got to talk about when we're going to die. But the reality is life insurance is for those people that are still living. And what's that going to mean for them? I'm not going to be here anymore. I got 3 kids. Well, when I'm not here anymore, those kids are probably still going to be around and have a financial need. Right now I got twins. They're 17. They're looking at colleges. And I get a smile on my face because it scares the crap out of me when they talk about what the tuition is in college today. It's a lot more than when I was there. And I'm pretty sure when they're done with college, they're still going to have a bill left over. And God forbid something happens to me between now and then. Right now, I'm footing a big part of that bill. But what happens if I'm not here? What happens if tomorrow I ride motorcycle? What happens if tomorrow I die on my motorcycle? They're not going to be able to go to school anymore. They don't have enough money to go. The ones looking at University of Pennsylvania, that's $90,000 a fucking year. That's a lot of money. I don't care who you are. The other one's going to IUP. Good job, Emma. It's like a third of the price. But, ultimately, what's going to happen? Is this something that we pay on for the rest of our lives? Yeah, things may come up. What happens after they graduate? Our liabilities don't go away. I'll tell you on one call that I had, man, I had Miss Mary on the phone. I don't remember what her real name is, but I Miss Mary on the phone. She was a wonderful lady, but she had no need for life insurance. She didn't have any friends. She didn't have any family members left over. Anybody else have a call like this before? Right? See everybody that's on camera shaking their head. Yes, I'm pretty sure we all did. Right? And in the background, I heard woof, woof, woof. Oh, Miss Mary, what's that? Who's that I hear in the background? Oh, that's Fluffy. We just got back from the dog spa. Oh, man, that sounds amazing. I have a dog too. I never took him to the dog spa. What do you get done at the dog spa? Guys, for the next 10 minutes, she told me everything that she did at the dog spa for her dog. I'm telling you, the nails got done, the hair got trimmed, the bath happened, the conditioner. Like I heard about it all in detail. So where did I go? We had the beneficiary set up as a trust, and that dog is being well taken care of when Miss Mary ain't here anymore. So where do they find value at? Why are they still living? Why is Miss Mary, happy even though she doesn't have any family, she doesn't have any friends? She doesn't go to church. Well, Fluffy. Hey, how can I can't use Fluffy as a beneficiary, but I can put that money into a trust and encourage them to have that trustee set that up to be taking care of the dog. Yeah, I see Shaler saying about the beneficiary as the dog. And yeah, sometimes, that a lot of people will tell you, if they do something like that, yeah, it's that my dog is my beneficiary. But in reality, don't set the dog up as a beneficiary, because in the end of the day, the insurance company is going to use that as a reason to deny the claim. Put it in as a trust, and it's easy enough that, in today's world, guys, you can go on to LegalZoom and set up a trust, and it's not that hard to do. They do everything for you. You fill in the blanks and it happens for you. So
LegalZoom, that's a good resource. So just the word legal and then the word Zoom. That's good to know.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. And that's something too, guys. Don't ever forget that we're just an insurance agent. We're not an accountant. I don't own a law firm. Can't give legal advice. I can't give accounting advice. But what I can do is I can talk about, how does that money going to make you feel? I can't talk about, hey, this is a good investment. Quite honestly, final expense insurance may not be a good investment. You know what else isn't a good investment? Never saving a freaking dime throughout your life and being in your 60s and not having a single penny saved. So when somebody says to you, oh, yeah, well, if I just save this payment for the next 20 years, I'm going to save up more money than I would have put in. Well, okay. Tell me, how much have you saved the last 20 years? Nothing, or the one that I laugh every time I hear it. And I'm going to apologize right now for anybody that's worked for this company. But there's a company that's out there that says, hey, buy term insurance and save the rest. Do you want to know what percentage of the people that save the rest is? 0. None. Not a single damn person. I don't care who you talk to with that company. And for those of you that have worked there, you may say, oh, yeah, I bet you there is some. Yeah, maybe it's 5%. Not enough to make it worth their while. Not enough that I want to know that, hey, my grandma got some good term insurance, but she never saved anything. No, it didn't help out at all. Why is term insurance inexpensive? When you get that person that tells you, oh, I got insurance through my company. Yeah, well, yeah, it's $2 a month. You know why it's $2 a month? Because it never pays out. Talk to me right now. Does anybody know anyone that's ever died while they were still working? Maybe there was a car accident. Maybe every once in a great while there's somebody that gets cancer and passes away. But the reality is 99.9%, they die after they stop working. And the crazy thing is, a lot of times that happens within 5 years. You retire and die. And guess what happens when you retire? Employer coverage is no longer in effect. So it's a neat thing to offer as an employer. I was an employer. It was neat. It never paid out. It was a good investment because a lot of other companies weren't offering it. And it was a way for me as an employer to be able to say, hey, I offer a little bit better benefits than the next company. You can get $50,000 worth of coverage if you work here. Well, that sounds good. It doesn't mean anything. You plan on dying? No? Okay. You do die, would that $50,000 help you out? Maybe. It's going to help your family out, not going to help you out.
That's right. That's right, man. Well, dude, I really appreciate you bringing the heat for us here. It's great to have a nice, it's like a new, fresh approach to everything that we're doing. And Corlette, did you have a question for Eric, by the way? Still, maybe by chance? I know you put your hand up a while
Yes,
back.
yes, I do because I love talking to people who know more than me. So definitely want to absorb off of you, Mr. Eric. So good morning, welcome, and
Good
definitely
morning.
want definitely want to soak in some information from you. I noticed that you were saying, and I'm new to the final expense family, and I'm coming from Medicare. I stopped selling Medicare back in December of last year.
Mhm.
Anyway, just a question to you. I know that you said you favor American Amicable, and I'm learning more about the carriers and what they accept and what they don't accept. But what happens? What do you recommend? This is your asking for your recommendation for someone that's new like me and still learning. Um, if a certain carrier is not available in a certain state, like New York, for instance, maybe it's a resident that's in New York, and maybe you can't go with American Amicable.
New York
What?
and final expense is like oil and water. We just can't work in New York.
Okay, so what
But
would
I get where you're coming from.
what would be your recommendation if I'm getting a lot of New York calls? What would be your recommendation to still assist them because they still need coverage? You can't
It's
ask them
very
out just because they're
it's
resident
very
in New York.
difficult to sell in the state of New York, and I'm going to let the team here talk a little bit more about that. But what I can tell you is, and one of the big reasons why I like American Amicable is because they are in a lot of different states. And American Amicable has some other, I'll call them sister companies as well, like Occidental Life, that covers some of the other states that are out there. I mean, they even cover like Guam and Puerto Rico if you're and with the right companies. And again, I don't know exactly what carriers and which products that you get appointed with here, but what I can tell you is you don't have the carrier in that state, you can't sell them. Okay. So try to find that focus. And one thing that I would, and I don't see anybody tell me not to say this, but if you're licensed in New York, if you're from New York, you got to have your New York license and then get licensed in other states. But it is extremely difficult to sell over the phone any type of insurance in the state of New York. New York's making it very difficult to be able to sell in New York. What I would tell you to do is stop taking leads from New York. Now,
Oh,
other states, you may be in a state like Pennsylvania, and you may have a carrier that works very well in Pennsylvania, but this is something where the question that you're asking right now is a question that I would throw back at you and say to you, how much time are you willing to put in to really learn this business inside and out? Now, some of that's going to come from experience. Some things you can study, you can pull the book out and look in the book and study the book for years. I'm one of the very few people that I've ever met that I went to college for insurance. Penn State University, there were 45,000 undergrads and there were 27 people in my major. So I'm pretty certain there are very few people that ever got a degree in insurance. Okay. What I can tell you is I didn't learn nothing while I was in school. I learned that you were supposed to show up. I rarely ever did. Most of my professors were at that time were other insurance agents that had an agency that they brought in because they didn't know who else to bring in. I was at Penn State University. Now, I say this because going to take a little bit of time, but really start off with one carrier. Maybe that's American Amicable. I don't know, but learn that carrier very, very well. Become an expert at that carrier. Learn all the products that they offer. Learn and start to ask yourself what areas, when I talk to different clients, that grandchild rider with American Amicable could come in pretty handy. Would you agree that if they start talking about, and a lot of times we get grandma and all she wants to talk about is how wonderful her grandkids are. Well, let her talk about how wonderful her grandkids are. And when she's about done talking about her grandkids, Miss Mary, you know what? I just thought about something. Work with a carrier that provides some amazing benefits, not just for you, but they actually have a program where they can add on your grandkids and give them their own policy for only $1 a month. Number one, I don't want to spend your money, but is that something that would be affordable to you? Yeah, it is great. You see the value in providing that insurance benefit for your grandkids. Imagine how that's going to make a difference for them. And another thing that I always throw in, guys, in today's world, in today's school system, they don't teach anything about finance. Tell grandma, hey, remember back when we were in school, they used to teach us how to make sure that we could keep track of our checkbook.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had a checkbook for like 15 years, guys.
That's
You know,
right.
I have no idea. I haven't ever kept a checkbook in my life. But I ask them, hey, remember they used to teach us how to use a checkbook? They don't do that anymore. Can you imagine the value that you're going to teach your grandkids with $1 a month to be able to show them how important it is to have a little bit of life insurance? Can you imagine if you got life insurance when you were 8, 9 years old? You'd be paying $1 a month and you'd have like 50,000 in coverage right now. Not going to be that price today at the age of at 60, 65 years old. It's not going to be $1 a month for you. But let's get that set up for your grandkids here. Let's talk a little bit more so we can get at least a small policy set up for you, get them on the right track today, get all 6 of your grandkids set up with that policy. And you see how much more valuable and how much more value you bring in the product by doing something like that versus saying, oh, you know what? I got the cheapest policy out here. Instead of using American Amicable, this time I'm going to use, let's see, Liberty Mutual, or I'm not, whatever other company that you may have. I'm going to save them $2 a month. Well, 30, 60, 90, 120, 3 years from now, whenever somebody else comes to them and says, hey, you know what? I got another policy and it's 30 cents a month cheaper. We haven't built up any value. All we've done at that point then is given them a price and told them, hey, you're going to get a little benefit whenever you pass away. Okay. But instead, now when that person says to them, hey, I can save you 30 cents a month, they're going to say, yeah, but you know what? This policy, it also has a policy for little Jimmy, Nancy, Drew. They all have insurance policies as well. I'm not interested. I don't care what the price is. That's selling the benefits versus selling the price. It's easy to sell. Well, it's not easy to sell price. A lot of us think, hey, I got to be the lowest price. The reality is selling by price is the hardest thing that you can do. Selling the benefits is 10 times easier when you can just sit back and listen. And again, you just hear what they have to say. They're going to tell you everything that you need to know. The ones that don't, they're not going to buy anyway. Don't worry about them. Sometimes in our business, guys, you just have to be able to say, that guy was an idiot. Next. And that's okay. Yeah, sometimes, believe it or not, people will fill out a form online just to be a jerk. And I'm pretty sure that we've all gotten that person that had that name that you were just like, yeah, right. Trying to think of one right now. You guys maybe have some on the tip of your tongue, but you get that idiot comes across as Peter Pan and they get on the phone and, they play it up, whatever. You're not going to sell them. Okay. Sometimes it's okay with some of those people too. Just say to them, hey, I see your name on here as Peter Pan. Were you born with the name Peter Pan or are you just joshing me? Well, you were making that up because, you didn't know if you even wanted to be on this call, I bet, right? Oh, you did? Yeah, probably not. Nobody wants to talk about life insurance. I got the toughest job in the world. And you know what? I get it. But I bet you deep down inside, even for Peter Pan, he knows that at some point he's going to grow up and he won't be here anymore. And he's going to leave a lot of his friends behind, a lot of his family members behind, and having some life insurance is important. You got a couple of minutes so we can at least talk about that? So guys, there's always opportunity standing in front of you, whether it's on the phone, whether it's that lead that is unsellable. Challenge yourself. Whether you're paying for leads or you got free leads, they still cost somebody something, and work them to the death. But what I say is, and I will tell you, I started off working for a company that they supplied free inbound leads. I got a terrible commission rate. It was horrendous. It was tough to make a dollar. But one of the things that I learned while I was there was, as getting an inbound call, my average talk time, not per sale, but per lead, was over 30 minutes. Why? Because every one of those leads, guys, Griffin, you look like you would know. How much does an inbound lead cost these days?
It ranges from $16, which is they're not as good, but $16 to $27 per inbound Facebook call in. They're calling in off Facebook.
I'm going to be honest here. I think Griffin's lying. I think it's a lot more expensive than that. Guys, I bought inbound leads from $75 to $100 every single lead. So trust me, you can imagine when your closing percentage goes much below 30%, you're saying, oh shit, like I'm going to be making money on these leads. It's a little scary. Now, if you can get, Griffin, if you get leads for that price, that's really good. You're getting a good deal on leads. Hopefully you're getting some interest in those leads. But work every single lead. If you got a live person on the line, that's an opportunity to sell. And think about it this way. There have been times where, you know what? I'll hang up the phone. And there's somebody else ready to go. But there's other times where I've hung up the phone and I'm sitting there waiting for 45 minutes till I talk to somebody else. If you're doing outbound leads and you got a live body on the phone, remember that, hey, it might have taken you an hour of dialing. You might have dialed 200 other numbers. If you have a power dialer, and I know it's a lot harder to use a power dialer today, but a few years ago when the rest of us were using power dialers and dialing 5, 6, 10 people at a time, sorry, we ruined it for everybody else. But, even then, I was saying to myself, holy shit, well, at least I got a live body on the phone. Otherwise, it could be another 30 minutes to an hour till I get somebody else on the phone that may be interested. I'm going to work this lead till I can't work it anymore. They're going to have to tell me no, 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 never, you're a jerk, no. But I'm not hanging up until they hang up first.
Yeah, you touched on one piece there that's very, very effective. It's true because you're going to encounter a phone call where the person's in a different stage of like the buying cycle. So, maybe they've talked to 3 to 5 to 10 other agents and they may not necessarily admit that that's what they did, but they have. And finally, it's like, okay, I've been putting this off and I've had this conversation 10 times in the last 2 years for half an hour each time. Okay. And those are probably more of like the salesperson, the lay down deals that we get where it's just so easy. And you're like, wow, that was easy. They either had something crazy happen where they're like, I got to just do this now, like urgency because of a loss, or they have had they've been worn down finally to the point where they're like, okay, I kind of have heard the same story like 10 times essentially. So now this guy did a good job. He sounds respectable. The insurance company kind of sounds like it might be worth half of, at least decently good, even though American Amicable is not a Mutual of Omaha in terms of marketing and how well it's known. I think at a certain point we wear these guys down only because they are resistive and they are stubborn and they are 67 and uninsured for a reason. And, that's kind of a target market who was underserved in the past, 20 years ago. I don't think really 90% of agents were going after the top 10% of income earners. And there now is quite a few agents that do what we do, where we're helping really the rest of everybody else kind of that get left behind, because we all know that Americans, 80% of them roughly, it's a rough estimate, live paycheck to paycheck or have less than $1,000 of savings in their accounts. So we're helping those people, and it is tough and it is frustrating in multiple different ways. However, like I think you mentioned at the very, very beginning, if you just keep your activity high and you shoot for, 4 or 5 hours of talk time, 12 presentations in a day or more, I say 7 to 12 kind of because if you're having 1 hour presentations, that's 7 hours, right? So I say 7 to 12 presentations because you might not make it that far, but 5 hours of talk time, 1,000 AP minimum. Never have a week that's less than 2,500 AP ever, like no matter what, or unless you're on a vacation. And then of course, you want to shoot for 5,000 AP, like kind of as like that should be kind of like where you would want your floor goal to be. But if you have to work 7 days to hit 2,500 AP, do it. Otherwise, you're just going to struggle. And so 50 weeks out of the year, if you do 2,500 minimum, you can multiply that by 50, right? But if you do 5,000 and you multiply that by 50, that's not bad. That's actually really good. And that's actually above average, well above average in the industry. So just having those targets each day, you know, if it takes 200 dials, if it means you're receiving calls and you talk to 20 people and you do 12 presentations and you close 3 of them, you know, that's kind of where we would look for that, right? And so that's just kind of going along with what you said, activity, activity, activity. You know, and Eric, actually, thank you for being here. What I'd like to do is perhaps Ben's, I don't know Ben's schedule, but if you hadn't got a chance to speak with Ben or me, you know, it might be worth a good, you know, short conversation if you want, or if you have any time this morning, we could get together offline. You know, love
Sure.
to chat with you more too, man, because you know this was so good. I didn't want to stop you. You know.
Yeah, Griffin, I want to say one thing that you just said there too, and that's talk time.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that we can control in our day is the amount of talk time that we have. And I would tell you more than anything else, more than the amount of business that you've written, more than, you know, the percentage of leads that you've closed. One thing that we can control is talk time. And I will literally personally guarantee you, and I would put a dollar number to this. Let me talk to these guys here first, but if you put in 5 hours of talk time a day, I guarantee you will not fail in this business. It is literally impossible. And I know for certain that these guys would agree with me. Anybody that's been in this business long enough knows that, you know, sometimes, and trust me, when I was in the beginning, my wife, oh man, she would be like, oh man, you're an emotional wreck. Come out of your office and sometimes you're on this high and sometimes you're on this low, and I never know what you're going to be at. The key to getting past that is stop focusing on the sales and the wins. Focus on the activity. And what you can focus in on is if you know that, hey, I'm going to hit 5 hours of talk time. I may not make a sale today, but here's what's going to happen. That repetition is going to get you better and better and better. You're going to start to see where, you know, maybe you don't close one every single day, but now all of a sudden you're closing one every day. And the next thing you know, you're closing 2 every day. And why does that happen? Because of practice. And you come on meetings like this and you get to hear people talk about what's working for them. And you add in just a little bit into what you're doing, and don't make massive changes. Guys, the worst thing that you can do is take something that I said and change around everything that you do in your day to incorporate the thing. Take 1 or 2 things that maybe I talked about, that Griffin talked about, you know, anybody on a call like this, you might even get on with another guru on sales. Change one little thing at a time. And what that does for you is it lets you calculate, did that help me or did it hurt me? Am I doing better or worse? And then make another small change in what you're doing. And the amazing thing is, and I'm sure you guys have heard this before, but if you only get 1% better every single day, guys, in 3 months, you're going to be an expert. In 6 months, you're going to be asked to be on calls like this for the IMO that you work for. You're going to have people asking you to come work for them. You know, you're going to be the one teaching. You're going to be recruiting people. You're going to be telling people, oh, this is the best business. Some people will follow you. And some people you may decide, you know, hey, I want to work with them. You know, I'm one of the guys that says, hey, screw it. I've never built a team up. I don't want to. Quite honestly, I enjoy my personal freedom more than money. And I've been able to travel. Now I've traveled a lot. And I've been very happy doing that, you know, but depending on where you want to get at, I can tell you, this is probably one of the easiest things that you can do. I tell my friends that are in customer service all the time, make $12 an hour. I can literally show you doing the same exact thing, working for a different company. You got to get some licenses, but once you have those licenses, you're going to get training. And with a little bit of practice, you're going to be able to make $12 an hour? Really? That's nothing. You know, there are times where I'll be making $300-$400 an hour. How is that? Just takes a lot of practice. You know, in the beginning, I told you before, there was one week where I came to my manager and I said, look, I literally meant this. I lost my mojo. I can't do this anymore. I think I just lost my ability to sell. And I was ready to quit. I was ready to say, it's over. I'm done. I'm going to go find something else to do. Thank God that manager said to me, Eric, shut up. You just sold how many people last week? Do you really think it's just something that you're saying different? Go listen to one of your 2 or your calls. I'm going to send some over to you. Or here, listen to somebody else's call. And you know what? The reality is sometimes it's just getting out of your own way, getting the mindset. And I know you guys have heard this a million times. Mindset. The reality is, if your head's not clear, if your head's not thinking, hey, Miss Jones, she needs this insurance. You think Miss Jones is going to be saying, yeah, I think I need this insurance? If you're not sitting at your desk, if you're not sitting on that call thinking, yeah, this person needs this insurance, you need to get off that call, stand up from your desk and ask yourself, why am I thinking that? Because everybody needs some life insurance. There's going to be an expense when you die. I don't care who you are, where you live at, what country you're in, what planet you're on. There's going to be an expense. And every year that goes past that we live before that day comes, it's going to get more expensive, right? Anybody have any expenses in the last 2-3 years that have gone up much? Groceries, cars, gas, taxes, anything. Everything's gone up. So has dying. Dying's gotten a lot more expensive. And, a lot of people on our calls today, they want to say, oh yeah, I saw this thing where you can get cremated, or you can be buried and turn into a tree, and you can do this, and you can get, they take you into a submarine and take you and put you down at the Titanic or something. Yeah, there's a lot more options. And guess what? They keep getting more expensive. So if grandma wants to do that, she wants to get buried and turn into a tree, that's great. I think that's fantastic. I think grandma should be able to do that. And I would love to remember grandma and see that she's buried under a fruit tree and she continues to put off of those amazing apples every year, whatever it is, but there's a cost to that. Guys, just like I'm talking here right now, and I keep going on and keep talking about other new opportunities, we're going to do the same exact thing on these calls. When you have somebody that says to you, I'm just not sure this is right for me. I don't have any money. Tell me about that. Most people I talk to don't have money. Guys, the people I talk to, same exact people you talk to, they don't have money, or at least that's how they perceive in the beginning of the call. But a lot of times they're telling you, I don't have any money because they don't perceive that there's a value or a benefit, or quite honestly, they might be scared to talk to you. Griffin is a pretty intimidating fella. When we talk to Griffin, he's scary. He might actually ask me to spend some money, and I decide to do it. My God, he convinced me to put a benefit in place for my family. But we have to have that mindset that, what? I don't care what Griffin's answer is. When I get to the end of this call, I'm going to make an offer. And hopefully I've created enough value that he's going to want to hear more. Maybe he says yes when I make that full price offer and I tell him, hey, it's $125 a month. But I need to be prepared, because 90% of the time they're going to sit back in their chair. You might not be able to see them, but I guarantee you 90% of the time they're saying, oh, $125 a month, Eric. What do you think? I'm made out of money? Can't afford that. Be ready. Stop them in their tracks. Guys, I'm going to give you one piece of advice. As soon as somebody tells you no on a phone call, and I don't care if you're selling life insurance, you're selling anything. As soon as they tell you no, that is the moment when you open your mouth and you stop them from talking. Because what's going to happen is as they start talking, they're going to talk themselves out of everything that you've talked them into on that call so far. So when they say, Eric, well, that's too much money. Hey, Quentin, let me tell you, I completely agree with you. $125 is a lot, but I wanted to make sure that I share with you the maximum benefit. $50,000 is a lot more than we even talked about. We only talked about $15,000 in coverage. An extra $35,000, you know what that would do for your family? That $35,000. Remember earlier you told me about your son that has special needs and how you've struggled over the years to be able to afford to provide for him because it's a lot more expensive. Hey, when we're not here anymore, I'm pretty sure I have a son myself that has special needs. I'm pretty sure when we're not here anymore, those costs are going to continue, right? So what we're talking about here is not only being able to provide for when you pass away, but for when Benny's here by himself or your son's here by himself, and he still needs that financial support, and you can still be here for them. Now, does that 125, does that still sound like way out of the ballpark? Because if it does, I have some other options that are less expensive. I wanted to make sure that we could provide those benefits for your son. Should we be looking at something less expensive, or do we want to provide those benefits today? And do you see, guys, do you see how now we've taken, and it may be too much. That may be way too much. But here's the other thing that I can tell you. Let's say Quinn decides, yeah, you know what? Eric is the best salesman I've ever heard. I'm going to sign up right now, even though I know I can't afford 125 a month, because that sounds so good that I can't live without it. But you know what happens in 3 months? Quinn calls in and he says, hey, I can't afford this. Okay. Well, Quinn, I certainly understand that. You've spent over the last 3 months, we've got over almost $400 tied up into this policy already. I'd hate to see you walk away from that. You don't want to cancel this, do you? What we can do, let me talk to the carrier. Let me see if I can decrease that benefit amount a little bit to get you into the price point that would be more comfortable. Would $100 be more comfortable for you, or $75? The big difference is we jump right to that $35 a month policy. Now, 3 months in, they've only got $75 wrapped up into that policy, but they still run across. And now it's Christmas time. They spent all their money. They don't have any money to send into the insurance company. Now it's easy for them. Yeah, let's just cancel it. No, let's just close it out. Let's cancel the account. I don't need this. Never told you I wanted it in the first place. I heard some of those stories too. But the reason why I say this is don't be afraid to sell those big policies, because a lot of times what happens is rather than them coming back and you sold that $35 a month policy because you knew that they didn't have much money, it's easy for them to walk away. But those bigger policies, whether it's you on the phone or you have an assistant or you have somebody else at the company's talking to them, it's a lot easier for them to say, man, Miss Mary, I'd hate to see you walk away from all the money that you already have into this policy already. Wouldn't it make sense if we just find you a little bit smaller policy? I'm going to talk to Quinn and see if he can find you a better policy that's going to be more affordable for you and still provide all those great benefits. I know that the reason why you guys decided to put this in place was to make sure that your family was taken care of, right? Exactly. But if we're at that $35 policy and they've got, $5,000 in coverage, there's not a whole lot of places for us to go. But I'm going to tell you right now, whether they're spending $125 a month or they're spending $25 a month, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but we've all had those times where financially we're saying, where could I cut some bills at? I've only been paying on this for a couple of months. Let me talk to that guy. I want to get that Eric guy back on the phone. At least that's how it's worked for me. I've tried selling some of those smaller policies just to try to get something on the books. But don't be afraid to make that bigger offer. Don't be afraid to say, man, Christopher, I know we only talked about $15,000 in coverage, but I got to tell you, American Amicable's got you approved here for $50,000 in coverage. Now, I know we only talked about a smaller amount, but I know you told me earlier that, your wife's a lot younger than you are. She's 10 years younger than you are. What's going to happen if you're not here anymore? That $15,000 is going to pay for the funeral. But, that extra $25,000, extra $35,000, it's going to go a long way because, and guys, if you don't know about Social Security, when you have Social Security, you might get 2 checks as long as you're both alive. But once one of you passes away, the smaller of the 2 checks goes away. So they might be getting, let's say she might be getting $1,000 a month from Social Security. He might be getting $1,200 a month from Social Security. When he passes away, that $1,000 a month goes away. Well, what's your wife going to do when she loses that extra $1,000 a month that you guys have been relying on? That it's going to become pretty important. It becomes a very viable reason to say, yeah, you know what? Maybe I got to push myself. Maybe I got to stretch myself. You know what? $125 a month for my wife to make sure that she's taken care of. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's right, man. I appreciate it, Eric, big time. Well, for us guys, take everything that Eric said today and use it as fuel to attack the phones, man, and just make it the best day you possibly can. And just hopefully you got some really good notes there and we can go back and chop this up or review it or whatever, and then go from there. So
no, hey, Griffin, I just want to say, Eric, thank you for that, man. That was an amazing time. I was supposed to be at work, man, but I couldn't leave. You was dropping too many gems, man. So I really appreciate it, man. So again, thanks, Griff, Shayla, Eric. It's been great, but I gotta go, man. Y'all have a good weekend. But man, that was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here, man. Appreciate
All right,
that.
y'all have a good day, everybody.
You too.
Thank you, Christopher.
Yes.
Yeah.
And thank you again, Eric. You've been awesome. I've really enjoyed this. You've like Christopher said, you dropped a lot of gems. I was just eating it up. I'm telling you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Hey, think about, one thing that I can leave you with here as you're going through your calls and as you get and you're making and presenting an offer, always remember that your confidence is the confidence that your client's going to utilize to be able to make the decision to say, yeah, you know what, let's move forward. And think about it this way. Some of the people that you know in your life that are very strong-willed, maybe some of those people that are, in your lifetime that you followed or listened to, they're very confident individuals. We follow them because we know that, hey, I feel good following in their lead, and be that person. Today when you get on that call, have that confidence. When you make that offer, let them know that, hey, this is going to do a lot for your family, and here's what it's going to help you out with. Tell them everything that they told you. Talk to them about their kids. Write down their kids' names. Write down their loved ones' names. And when you get to the point where you're making that offer, make sure that you bring those names up to show that you're listening, to make it identifiable, to make it and bring that emotion out of them. So as you do that today, I hope that each one of you writes an extra policy this week, using some of these tips. And most importantly, though, get on the phones, take an extra lead, take one extra lead a day. That's 5 extra leads a week that you would have before. And I guarantee you, you're going to write more business. Activity. The rest of it comes with activity. So even if you feel right now, oh man, I don't know how to implement something like that, just do this. Take one extra lead today. When you get to the end of the day and you say to yourself, oh man, doing this long enough, I think I'm going to just turn my system off. Tell yourself, I remember Eric told me to take one more lead. And what's going to end up happening, I guarantee you, a week from now, every single one of you, if you all did that, you're going to be able to come on this call in 1 week and be able to say, you know what, I actually sold, an extra deal on one of those calls where I just said, I'm going to take one more lead. It's happened to me more than you could believe. Even on a Friday, guys, it's easy. Friday afternoon, the sun's out. My kids want to go do something. I want to go do something. It's beautiful, whatever. It's easy to shut the system down. What's not easy is to say one more. I just need one more lead. If I take one more, I'm going to be able to sell it. Griffin, how many times have you told yourself, man, I'm just going to take one more? And that ends up being the deal.
Oh yeah. Several times, especially if I had a horrible call that was the opposite of that sale, where most people would say, well, it's about time for me to just call it quits after that one. Like a bad call could have even been down to the end, lost the call while getting the bank account, or lost the call, whatever. Like we used to have to do 30-minute optical interviews with the MM, or a lot of carriers, and you'd lose people after you had their bank account and their social, things like that. So I had people that would just quit right there. And it's like literally the next call, nicest lady in the world. I've been thinking about this for a long time. I need to do this. And they just go right through your process and they stay on. They're still active, kind of a customer. So yeah, you're 100% right. Just do another, and hit those targets. Even when you've made the sales, if you can still keep that activity there, that's where another superpower comes in, especially in your first year. Is, I made a couple of sales and I could just stop at 1:00 today. But if you just go longer, those next 4 hours, even if you went without a sale, could set up your next few days or few weeks of sales. And that'll be consistency for you throughout the year, because the worst thing for this business, Eric, is it's a blessing, but it's a curse if you're not consistent, right? Because we get those chargebacks, and it's awesome when you're consistent. If you can sell 10 policies a week and 3 of them cancel, if they cancel, then you don't care as much. But if you write 4 policies and 2 of them cancel or 1 of them cancel, it hurts a lot more. So the volume, the consistency, obviously a lot of the things he said will help you retain and keep some of those from falling off like that. But, maybe you write 10 and 1 falls off. You're not going to care. Right? So a lot of things he said today can help you retain the client. And everything he said, I think, helps keep the client on. And then, of course, doing those callbacks in a week and policy review. Hey, you got your policy? No. Okay, well, it'll come shortly. I'll call you again in a few days to see that it arrived. And then it's another chance to ask for the referrals, just like he said. And I'm sure people will review this multiple times and should review it multiple times to pull out all that data and use it. 100%, man. Well, dude, I appreciate it big time. I'm going to have to get these guys to take these calls because, we got actually some good news too, because we've got a marketing agency that will send you live transfers. We have 41 calls left with them where they literally have an American call the client. They spend about 5 to 7 minutes with the client, and then they bring them over to you, and they'll introduce themselves with the client on the line, and then they'll leave the line and give it to you. That call is obviously much more expensive, Eric, as you know, and 50 calls, for example, is $2,000. We have 41 calls left. All of you can receive those calls today because I never could use them all. I only used 9 of them. The last 2 that I took, I closed them. So I took one day, closed it, took one the next day, closed it. And that's a lot. And that was like a week ago. So 2 of the sales I got last week were from that. You guys will be getting them. So be ready. Like, hi, this is Quentin. And then they're going to say, hey, Quentin, this is Sarah. I've got, Betty here on the line, and she's 65 and blah, blah, blah. And then they'll leave the line and you can take over. Okay. So it's time for us to hit it. I know that it's all lined up. It's ready to go. And we just got to log in. Man, Eric, we'll get together, man. Appreciate you being here, brother.